Great to see familiar faces here, and I'm looking forward to hearing a lot of these stories from all of you folks. I met Dale when I was 23. A friend of mine my climbing partner, was doing a presentation at an Alpine Club meeting. And it was about a first ascent we had just done on the north face of the Nameless Tower in Pakistan. And after the slideshow, Dale came up and just swooped me right out of his wing. He was like, "You got something, kid." So, 30-year friendship. We became fast pals and worked together at Black Diamond for more than a dozen years. Petzl, professional aside, he was always stoked, the big smile, it was contagious. We shared so much time together, and birthdays, and holidays, in the desert, just romping around, climbing, laughing the whole way. That's the number one thing I'll miss about Dale, is that huge smile and contagious, stoked attitude. I'd like to pass the mic on to Doug Robinson.
Hey man, you set an example for brevity that I don't think I will be able to follow. Sorry. Some of us are writers, so pardon me if I read. Let's raise our voices for Dale Bard, the man, the legend, the stone master, our friend. We're gathered here in the Buttermilk for a very good reason. During the 1980s, Dale owned this place. May his spirit reign. See, Dale started out as a gun in the valley. I shouldn't have to tell most of you people about this stuff, right? That's Yosemite Valley, not that there's much confusion. In the 1970s, he began as one of the Birds boys, mentored by Jim Bridwell himself. Dale put up first ascents of cutting-edge El Cap routes like Sea of Dreams, still rarely repeated even today. Diegelman is here. I hope he'll tell us some stories from that. Dale also got known in those years for fearsome FAs on Part 3 climbs. Some of you, I'm sure, have told me you're delaying it. We're privileged to have with us this afternoon several of the original Stone Masters, starting with Lynn Hill. Her first free ascent of the nose on El Cap is, I reckon, simply the climb of the 20th century. Forget Everest, it's a big walk up. It was Carl Jung who said, "This is the magic circle. Here only the right guests meet." After the valley, Dale came right here, to these boulders that were not yet world famous. He stayed for years, got an old UPS van and tricked it out with teak cabinets. I reckon that because of that, he invented van life. So I know a little bit about all this because I was the first to stumble into this rock pile here in 1969. I put up the FA at the biggest boulder with rope and 2 nuts and even sank a bolt to protect it. Only to find out that a local guy, Bob Blanchard, had already soloed my route and didn't bother to tell anybody. I got schooled. Together we spent years out here just roaming through the rocks and partying and put up a lot of things that I've got to say now are the descent routes on it. Anyway, I'm ready to hear Stone Master stories from you guys. Before we dive into that, a couple of thanks here to Jared Ogden, who came up with this idea. Thank you. He took good care of Dale in his last few years too. Let's take a moment too to honor Dale's brother Alan, the great Bardini, who died guiding the Grand Teton in 1997. And also the last standing member of the Bard brothers, Gary Bard. Thank you for coming, Gary. Gary brought Dale's ashes to be with us today. We'll probably never know everything that Dale did out here because he lived out here in his van for years, and he was alone a lot of the time. He had no pads, no spotters, just doing hard-ass stuff and tall high balls. I'll credit Sarah with saying that, she said, I think everything to the south of Buttermilks Road is Dale's camp. Because he camped over there a bunch of different spots and bouldered his ass off, and hats off to our friend.
I met him in the early 70s in Camp Brewer. I came there in about 73. Dale was already there for a couple of years. And some of my best climbs, the best adventures were with Dale, so I have a lot of great memories of him. He was quite the character, as most of you know. So I'd see Dale once in a while. You know how it is with old climbing friends. Decades can go by, but you get together with them and all the memories come back, and it's just like that time. It didn't intervene at all, and we really got reacquainted. We learned about Dale's medical issues at that point, and Dale was not great about calling back. He was not the best communicator. He said he had this important test coming up for cancer, and it was the next day, and he didn't call me that day. I called him back the day after. I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, I'm fucked, basically. I don't have long to live. This cancer spread throughout my body like there's little orange dots or something on the image. And he said it looked like a Christmas tree. So the cancer spread, and the doctor told me that I'm going to die in the next year or so. And I was, of course, shocked and didn't know what to say. I said, that's terrible. I'm so sorry, Dale. And Dale was, took it. I was talking like it was no big thing. He said, oh, that's all right. I'm okay. And then he told me the story. He said, in fact, the doctor was surprised that I was taking it so well. He said, you have a terminal illness, and Dale was making light of it and joking about it. And so he told me that the doctor said, that's not the way that most people act when they've got a terminal diagnosis. And Dale responded, he said, doctor, how many lives have you had? And the doctor said, was taken aback, as anybody would be. And he said, only one. And Dale said, well, doctor, I've had 9 lives. And, it was indicative of Dale. He had such a full life of adventure and climbing and, living the life he wanted to live, that, he could take this terminal diagnosis. And I hope that when it comes for me, that I can have that same attitude. It was really remarkable to talk to him. He was a remarkably great guy to have as a climbing partner. He could just do anything, keep us cool in any situation. It's a pretty rare thing in climbing to be able to do all these different disciplines: ice climbing, alpine climbing, bouldering, rock climbing, big walls, aid climbing, free climbing. But Dale, at the end of the 1970s, was one of the best all-around climbers in the world. And that should be appreciated. He was not just a great boulder and a great rock climber, but he was a great alpine climber, a great ice climber. He had an amazing, warm personality, just always enthusiastic, always able to deal with whatever the mountains threw at him. Like I say, I was lucky to know him back in his prime in the 70s, when he still had 9 lives to spare, and he used them wisely as he went along. So thanks.
Dale says, man, I'm kind of hungry. Is there any food? And this guy, Randy from Tamarack, he says, yeah, I got a box of brown sugar. So Dale, so Randy goes and gets the box of brown sugar, and Dale just takes these fistfuls, like 2 or 3 fistfuls of sugar, jumps back on it, send it. And that's my best memory of the transport room. It's open to, if someone else was around, I'll think about Dale anytime I ever go climbing here again, as always. And so thanks for a few moments here.
There's so many experiences that we've had together, and I had to think about that on the way over. What the essence of it was, the magic of that time, the lifestyle we were living. and what he represents to the essence of rock climbing and Yosemite climbing. It really goes beyond words. Like I said, it's touched me in a way that keeps the spirit alive. And I'm glad that the brother was saying about his relationship to this place and finding that quiet and peacefulness. Yeah, I was just reminiscing when he said he was ice climber. We did the Widow's Tears together. After Charlie Porter had taken me up to Sentinel Falls, so I was ready for the next step, and that was with Dale to do the Widow's Tears. Yeah, and so we're good to go. He knows more about ice climbing than me. I followed him up there, and together we made it in a day. The second set, like I said, after Mark and Chapman and Kevin Worrell. We got to the top, and it was dark. Didn't bother us. It was a full moon. We made our way down, who knows, thrashing through the woods and snow, get to the road, 11:30 at night. Don't think nothing of it. Just start walking back to the valley and hitchhike. These are the kind of things we were doing. And I think really there was no better climbing partner that you could have than Dale Barr. There might be as good, but no better. So what it epitomizes for me is the freedom to be yourself and be authentic. And Dale Bard was authentic. He radiated that. So for a young person to look at him as a door opening to see yourself is impressive. You know, again, it's just really interesting to try to put in words, but there's a lot of people that are carrying that kind of spirit here today. And it's such an honor, pleasure, joy to take the time to keep that connection that Dale brought us here today to have. And like I say, it goes deep-rooted. We did a lot of first ascents on El Capitan, Iron Hawk together, the New Jersey Turnpike. We did jobs together when we were out in Angel's Landing for TV stuff. We went to Wyoming together. So I had to start thinking about how many things we did together, and it was so natural to be with him. You know, so it's a phenomenal era of time to keep in our psyche and to keep these stories going. So again, we can help the next generation not lose that kind of connection. Dale Barr. Like I say, I'll be eternally grateful because that really set an example to you that you could have a way of life and a very simple way of life and be rich. And it's kind of cool that he never did spin off into the, you know, high-end sponsorship climber and that kind of stuff. In fact, he didn't even have money most of the time, like you're talking about the sugar. So we were walking back from the post office one time. I don't know if it was back or a day line, but somehow we were talking about him and money, and so we were over that Yosemite Creek Bridge. And we said, "Dale, I'll give you $5 if you jump off the bridge with your clothes." Like, who does that, right? I don't know which one of us said it, but he jumped off the bridge into the creek with all his clothes. He got $5. And that kind of sounds really bad, but that was the Dale Bart, like you're saying, going to the restaurant. Want to do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Not only that, we were going on the shuttle bus. Maybe you guys heard this story, that double-decker shuttle bus that used to be in Yosemite Valley. We'd be riding on that on the top deck, and then he said, "I'm going to jump up." I said, "Really?" And he asked the tourists if they mind him sitting next to the side that he could jump up. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't move out for him. So he sat next to it, and when they got to the bridge, he weren't ready to jump. He just stepped over the tourists, stepped off. It's like 40 feet, right? Yeah, I can't. So there was kind of never a dull moment in that whole era of time. Like everything we were doing had its kind of idea that we were leading a pitch. Like to go to the post office and hang out, go to the river. It was all connected, and we were going to go all out in whatever we were doing. So again, there's really, it's all beyond words. It's a good feeling to think of Dale Bard, and I think we should keep that good feeling going with ourselves and face life like he did. And I remember quoting, we were hanging out once, and there was a Grateful Dead song that said, "If the thunder doesn't get you, the lightning will." And he goes, "That's right." Thank you.
Oh, so good to see people I grew up with when I first came to Yosemite. You know, I see Dale through all of your eyes and your faces, and when I came to Yosemite, it was a brave new world, the rise and fall of the Yosemite Decimal System. It was a really small, unique group, Yosemite climbers. It, you know, didn't rub it in that we were C4Bs, whatever they call us, Camp 4 bums, but we had a bigger purpose. You know, we knew why we were there. You know, after Robin's era, you know, this is a brave new world, and Bridwell brought all this big free climbing thing into perspective. And then as the years went by, the community just shrunk and shrunk. And so I've been known in Yosemite for close to 50 years, and what I see is the people that stood by my heart was Dale Bard and all of you. You know, he's always encouraging, but it was a great era, and I was really glad to be a part of all that, and we're going to miss Dale. Remember, we're a small family. Let's stay close, let's stay tight. Thank you, God bless Dale.
Some of you might know that in the last 10 years of Dale's life, he was writing his life story. Thank you, Jared, for taking on that project, but also just being there for him for the last several years of his life. And I would talk to Dale and he would tell me about what he was writing in the book, and I knew that he was hurting, but he would never let on, and that is so Dale. When I was 16 or 17, I had this theory that Dale lived out of the candy machine because I never saw him eat anywhere else, well, except in the mornings, because his girlfriend Janet worked at the Four Seasons, and Janet would bring him out a cup of hot cocoa, and I'm not exaggerating, the whipped cream would be this tall, am I right? That's where he got his protein from, and he would have seconds sometimes. You know, so later on in life when we got to know him, I actually asked him, was that really what you lived off? He goes, yeah, man, I was just like, I figured I could be a badass climber and just live off of like candy bars. That was so Dale. I saw Dale one day and I'm like, where's Janet? I haven't seen her around you for a while. And he goes, yeah, man, she's kind of pissed at me right now. I'm like, what's up? Well, we had to go see my lawyer in Sonora. And I was driving over that bridge, you know, over Don Pedro Reservoir, that bridge. I go, pull the car over, I gotta jump off.
Oh, God.
And Janet's going, you're not jumping off that. No, I gotta do it. And so, like normally it's 50 feet off the deck, but this is the drought year. We're still in the drought, it's over 100 feet down. And he's, you know, telling me, yeah, it's probably over 100 feet down, and it's like, dude, you're crazy. Sorry to put this out in front of the family, but you know. Yeah, I know you know. And so Dale jumps off, and he's telling me the story, of course, after it happened. And he goes, yeah, I realized I kind of made a mistake when my feet really hurt. My ears were like really ringing. And he goes, I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. Because he had gone down that far. Anyway, all I can say with Dale is he was so much fun on the wall. I mean, he's just... You know, Dale was like a 10-year-old kid that was on a sugar high that just found the back entrance to the city pool on the hottest day of the year. That was Dale full time. Dale was a legend at Indian Rock, and that's where I first met him and just watched him climb, which was like an amazing thing. From this exuberant, hey, let me get a top rope, to leading this thing, that was one of the most amazing lead climbs I've ever seen in my life.
But there was something else when they were raised, infused loyalty, perseverance, tenacity, the easiness of, I'll do the job. How many times did you hear that from Dale? Okay, great, I'll do it. Right? And I'm not just going to do it, I'm going to do it as well as I possibly can. Like 5 stars. He gave it everything, and he really didn't need our approval. A couple of things about Dale, just simple, it's just kind of like one-offs. So you're standing around Camp 4, and this would happen to Alan every day, multiple times during the day. Where's Dale? Not my day to watch him. That's what Dale was like. He was all over the place. I mean, did anyone here ever see Dale asleep? No, he didn't sleep ever. He would be like up in front of you in the morning by hours, had his plan, had gone and checked out something, scouted that route, gone and played with this or that. He was self-entertaining himself at all times, right? Just a couple other things about Dale. I saw him make a rattlesnake a pet. Think about those routes that he did that we know about. You know, the El Cap routes, you can't go there and really look at a lot of that stuff, but you can go to the base of Blues Riff, you can go to Scorpion, you can go to Oz, you can go to Mesmerize and look at that and go like, that's visionary. He lived in a world that he made for himself, and let's all do our best to make sure we can do that for the ones coming up behind us. All right, thank you.
I think that my inspiration is with the people here. And what I did in Yosemite was on the shoulders of the greats, and Dale was certainly one of them. I don't have the crazy stories, but my relationship with him was as a sister. He was my brother. And I got to know him a lot more in his later years. We would spend more than an hour talking on the phone, just talking about life. His integrity was beyond what I've seen really amongst anyone. You know, here's an example. Talking to Jared, and Jared shared it with me. It was top secret because Dale was so stoic. But in 1978, without the use of friends or cams, he on-sided the Phoenix crack. Unbelievable. People don't know this. This is amazing. 1978, nuts. And I think in that section where it's really hard to get gear, he just ran it out. And got to the other side and got some jams, and he was a beautiful climber, so graceful. But I really appreciated the fact that he wasn't doing it for any other reason than he just loved it. And he did it because he could, and he should, because he liked the challenge. He worked so hard at what he did to be a master, and he succeeded. And it wasn't because he wanted to boast about it. He did it because he loved climbing, and he loved his friends, and he was supportive of his friends. You know, when I was a kid, I was just a teenager when I met him, and I watched him guzzle a jar of honey. The guy was just an incredible athlete. You just watch him climb, and he was so graceful. And he's one of the few people that had so much talent, so many accolades, but he's not a household name. But he didn't want to put himself in front of a camera. He was just a climber's climber. And most of all, he was a friend of mine, and I felt like we could talk about things. And that was more important to me than any of the other things that he did, which of course is amazing, what he did as a climber. But as a person, that's what I respect. And I miss him too. But we have him in our hearts, and he affected our lives, and that's amazing. So, thank you, Dale.
My friend Sarah Conley has come all the way from Squamish to tell her story of the first female ascent of the transporter room just a couple months ago. And she knows a lot about what Dale did here too, and fill us in more on that.
I never met Dale, but I know a lot about him, and I want to tell you why. So this winter, I made a repeat of one of Dale's first ascents called Transporter Room, and I wrote an article inspired by him and that line, and I'd like to read a few passages from it. Again, I didn't know him, but these are stories I've been told about him. He was a tiny frame, a live wire. He had a lot of energy and a lot of pure, raw stoke for climbing. He was a Tasmanian devil in the boulders. He left a groundbreaking trail of ascents in his wake. He was known for his exceptional footwork and strong fingers, perfect for the Buttermilks style. Doug Robinson has said, he even walked precisely. Because of Dale's efforts, the bouldering grades in Bishop probably saw the single highest jump that any one climber has made. Dale climbed often alone in an era where crash pads were still a dream in John Sherman's head. His presence in the Milks was so ubiquitous that now nearly the entire south side of Buttermilk Road is referred to generally as Dale's Camp. And I'd heard about Transporter Room, this line that rarely gets repeated and had a rich history that seemed shrouded in kind of a cloud of mystery. It was my desire to immerse myself in that piece of history and to walk a few steps in Dale Bard's shoes and on his footholds that drove me to climb the Transporter Room. So it'd been put up on top rope, and Dale probably thought it would be an improvement in style to put some bolts in it. He didn't even make it to the bottom of his rappel line by the time he was heckled by a group of teenagers that were posted up in the parking lot, yelling at him that they were going to tell Tommy Herbert, a notorious anti-hardware local. The way it was told to me is that he immediately turned on his heels, got back up on the hill, suited up, sacked up, climbed Transporter Room without the bolts that he'd just sunk in, or pads, or spotters, and said, well, now it's a boulder problem. So when I did top it out, I was very calm. And the night before, I had a dream about Dale coming to visit me and giving me an old pair of his climbing shoes, which unnerved me quite honestly. But when it was done, I felt that though I'd never met Dale, I had him to thank for the experience that I had on the boulder. And I have something else to thank him for too, which I didn't know when I started. But the dirt bagging culture, and it is a well-defined culture that we have here in the Buttermilks, was started by Dale. I'm part of a lineage, a tradition of climbers who've chosen to forego society's earthly comforts in favor of adventure and simplicity. And I am proud to say that Dale was one of the founding members of that lineage. It was a magical time, said Ron Kauk, of Yosemite in the 1970s. There was this energy of adventure, nature, and simplicity all mixed into the air, the music and the conversations. It was all-encompassing. Indeed, the glamour of that era shines across the decades like a searchlight. Less well appreciated is how hard a life it was to maintain. That life was thankless, said John Long. There were no rewards. It was marginal and committing, and a lot of times it was very, very dangerous. It would have been impossible to maintain if it wasn't for the enthusiastic support of your peers, and nobody could have been more enthusiastic or more supportive than Dale. Bard doled out raw sight, mental energy by the bucket load. Dale was a true believer. He lived that life right to a T. Thank you.
Sarah's going to climb to the top and symbolically spread himself to the top.
Yeah. Thank you, Dale.
Nice.
Thank you, Dale.